Hey, welcome back to Life You Imagined. My name is Nico, and today we are looking at the happiness trap. So, if I would ask you the question, how do you go about being happier? How do you go about living a happier life? Would you say that the goal is to feel as many positive thoughts and feelings as you possibly can, and as few negative thoughts and feelings as you can? Does that sound like something that works for you, or that you would like to do, or the advice you've heard? If you have been on a sort of self-improvement or self-help journey, same thing, it's the same journey. For a while, maybe you've come across videos with life coaches and self-help gurus and entrepreneurs and motivational speakers who say something like this, that, sure, we want to feel as positive as possible, and we want to not be surrounded by so much negativity, right? A lot of people talk about not being surrounded by negative things, which makes a lot of sense, right? So would that thought then seem like a good idea to you? Now, you can see that I'm trying to lead you, right? Yeah. I'm trying to set it up so that sounds like, hey, that's the right idea. This book, The Happiness Trap by Russ Harris, opens up with that exact same premise. He starts off basically saying, hey, does this sound familiar to you? Have you tried this? Let's try to be as positive as we can and, be not as negative, right? Avoid negativity, not think negative things, not feel negative things. Well, let me ask you, have you tried not thinking negative thoughts, telling yourself that things are good, or kind of whitewashing situations? It's like if a bad thing happens, you go, no, it's going to be good. It happens for a reason, and there's positivity in it. Let's look for the good. Or experiencing a negative emotion and you try to avoid feeling it or suppress it. Does it work? Seriously, does it work for you? Because I can tell you, in my own experience, it doesn't. It might be a Band-Aid sometimes, maybe for a few minutes it might work, but overall, it's never worked for me, because I thought the same thing. All my life I've done that exact same thing. Well, not all my life. Most of the time I actually just wanted to be negative. I actually wanted to be miserable and be all depressed and mopey and gothy and shit. But now, at least for the last few years, as I've been slowly reading and exploring ideas about how to live a better life, I came across this exact same premise, trying to have more happy experiences, more positive experiences, and less negative experiences. And goddamn, is that fucking hard. You're trying to tell yourself that something's good when it's not. You're trying to feel something or force yourself to feel something that you don't when you want to be. Like if you're feeling anxiety, you're feeling depression, you're feeling anger or irritation, whatever, and you're like, okay, I don't want to feel this, I don't want. You're like forcing it away. Well, this is what he talks about in here, is that it doesn't really work. You're basically spinning your wheels. Like, you're forcing yourself to think and feel things that are not natural. And the entire premise of this book is to take a much more human nature approach to happiness, to anxiety, to depression, to these kind of things, and really kind of look at it and go, hey, let's be realistic and practical and go, what does your brain automatically do? What does it automatically do? And let's work with that as the premise, as the starting point, rather than trying to force ourselves to constantly be happy, which is a very unrealistic fucking standard. Like, that's not the norm. I'm sorry. We all think that being happy 24/7, well, do we all think? Maybe you don't think that. There are people that qualify that do think that being happy 24/7 is what you should be, or what you should feel, and what you should think. It's bullshit. No, these are momentary things, but it also doesn't mean that we need to be wrestling and struggling constantly with our own emotions. So basically, this whole book is built on the idea of a therapeutic technique called ACT, which is an acronym for acceptance and commitment therapy, I believe, and which is something that I really like anyway. I just like the idea of accepting things the way they are. I've been really into that the last year and maybe a little longer, but so already it appealed to me when I initially read this, about not trying to force things into the way we want them to be, and realizing, hey, let's just look at what it is and go from there, and let's start with that as being the default, and then we'll build on that. So rather than fighting your emotions, Russ Harris, the author, talks about learning to become more comfortable with them, learning to feel them, and learning to see our thoughts and feelings for simply what they are, which is just some thoughts and some fucking feelings. We get so attached to them, and that's the real problem, is that we become too attached to our thoughts and too attached to our feelings, and we let those things just carry us away, right? We just instantly accept it and believe it and go, oh, it must be true, I'm thinking these thoughts, and fuck. It's like, this is an amazing fucking book, and it's so useful, it's so practical. Every chapter you're learning a new way to look at your own brain and how it functions just normally and why it does what it does, and not fighting it, learning to deal with it and learning to be like, okay, so it's just a normal thing to think these things, it's just a normal thing to feel these things, which it is. And rather than battling it every fucking step of the way, learning to accept it. Okay, that's okay. That's just what my brain does, and so I'm going to do my best to not get so attached to those thoughts, not so attached to the emotions. In every chapter, he brings a lot of really cool techniques, really simple things, sometimes questions to think about how to think about how you have been affected by the emotions, and ways to directly apply all the ideas from each chapter, which of course, as you know, I like that. Whoa, you can actually do something with the book? What? Yes, I like applicability, I like usefulness, I like to be able to take ideas from the book and go, oh, cool, I can actually start using these. This was actually the very first self-help book that I bought. This was back in 2011, and I was going through a lot of shit during that time. So I had started looking on Amazon for books on different forms of self-therapy and whatnot, and I had stumbled across this fucking book and read a lot about it, and it's like, wow, this seems really cool. This seems like it's very pragmatic, which is often a big word for me. It's a big word, I can't pronounce it. It's an important word. So I initially got this, as I said, back in 2011. It was the first self-help book I picked up, and I just thought it was amazing. I was able to start applying these things in the very first day, and within a few days I was already noticing results from practicing what he's talking about. In fact, this became, and I think still is, one of my probably number one most recommended books to all my friends. Anyone's experiencing a lot of anxiety and depression and struggling with their own emotions and all that stuff. I actually ended up giving this book to an ex-girlfriend who was going through a lot of stuff, and I don't know if it's how it's worked for her. I don't know if she's applied it yet, but I didn't have the book for several years, and it was a few years ago that I'm like, fuck, I really want to reread this. So I remember this being so good. So I picked up yet another copy, because it's worth it, and reread it, and just like, Jesus Christ, this is so fucking great. Just so fucking great. Another thing that makes it so good, not only is it useful, not is the information fucking, very interesting, but the writing style is really great. So it's very approachable. There's a lot of books that I'll go through that tend to have more of an academic tone, or more like it reads like a psychology paper, perhaps, more textbooky, more challenging. And though sometimes the quality of the information and the topic will get me through the book, it's hard to recommend those books to most people, because I know that it's already a barrier, sometimes just reading nonfiction for some people. And so if you get on top of that with it being very dense and wordy and dry and all that, even though the information might be great, most people are not going to go for it. And I get that. It's you have to be really determined to want to learn the information. But this is one of those ones I feel is super easy to read. It's really friendly. There's even a little bit of humor in there. The author's personality comes through. So it's just engaging, and he condenses the information in a very easy and quick way. So it doesn't feel like it's like one idea just goes on for pages and pages and pages. Like, okay, I get it. It's like you get to that and you're already like, he's already given you practical exercises and ways to think about it. You're like, well, this is really useful. And we're already on to the next chapter, and it's already a new thing. Like, oh, wow, well, one more chapter. And he even advises to take this book slowly, because it is very actionable, because it does deal a lot with you answering questions, you doing exercises at the end of each chapter. He says, don't just power through this. Let's actually practice these things. Let's actually apply them to our lives rather than just reading the book and go, nothing happened. Well, duh. You still got to do shit. You got to do shit. It was a childish joke. You're welcome. But I couldn't help myself but kind of push through a little faster because it was, as I said, it was just so interesting and it was so easy to read. And I just kept wanting to go like, okay, I just want to learn one more thing. Let me, push on and read about the next part. I'm like, wow, this is just fucking great. So I have to say, this is still, to this day, and I've read a decent amount of books since this one that I thought were really great. But I think this is still probably, in my opinion, the best self-help book to own if you're dealing with a lot of negative thoughts and feelings and you want to learn to not be so carried away with them, not to feel like your emotions are quite as intense, your thoughts are as intense. This is the number one book that I still recommend to people. There's a lot of other great books out there that I would also consider to be close to essential reading, but this is the number one. I'd say, if you're struggling with a lot of negative thoughts and feelings, this is the book to have on your bookshelf. Even if you don't read a lot, even if you don't get a lot of self-improvement or self-help type books, this one, it's extremely practical, it's very readable, it's entertaining, it's fascinating, it's extremely useful. So basically, I don't like it. I thought it was a piece of shit. Okay, yes, this is pretty much one of my favorite books of everything I've read, and I can't recommend it enough. So please, if you are struggling, I want you to break out of that mentality of the fact that you have to force yourself to think more positive or try to suppress negative emotions. It's not what it's about. It's about becoming stronger and learning to actually deal with it better, which gives you a similar result actually, but we're going about it in a much more human nature-based way. You're understanding what your brain does naturally, you accept it, and you work within that. So, I fucking love it. Go buy this book, please. Please. I don't really have any criticisms. I really don't. I have like no criticisms, and maybe that sounds like a very biased view of it. I guess I do, but it works. It works, and I keep coming back to it. In fact, I'm gonna probably be rereading this one, at least I'd like to, once a year. That's how good it is. I don't usually reread anything. Okay, that's done. Whew. Yeah, I'm planning on doing this again, and I'd like to make it a traditional thing because it's just, as I said, I'm retracing my steps here, aren't I? Yes, I am. All right, Nico, done. Thanks again. Check out the links in the description to see the full written review, and there are links there to Amazon if you want to. Click the link to Amazon and buy it, please. And yes, it is an affiliate link, and there's part of the reason why I'm telling you to do that. But I really honestly just want you to get this because it's made such a difference for me and for other people that have recommended it to. So thanks for watching. This is Life You Imagine. My name is Nico, and I will see you next time. Well, hello again. Well, hello. There's a lot of books out there talk about happiness that have happiness in the title, perhaps happiness in other parts of the book. Just taking a guess, just a little guess. No, I don't like this. We're starting over. Would you say, for instance, that the goal is to feel Yeah, it's a Playboy mug. Shut up. I got them for a discount. That's the only reason I have them, because I was thrifty, not because I love Playboy. Hear how defensive I am? Did you hear that? Did you notice? Well, don't think I'm that kind of guy. Think I'm just really cheap and didn't have any money. Oh, these are on sale.
Hey, you want to be a better person? You want to live a better life? Sweet! Make sure you hit subscribe on Life You Imagined YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit that fucking notification bell so you're always up to date with all the newest offerings from Life You Imagined. Don't forget to go ahead and hit like on the video and share with all your friends. Leave a comment with all your fucking useless information, because I'm never going to read it. Oh, and make sure you go over to lifeyouimagine.com and check out everything I have over there. Look at me, buy my stuff, do everything I want you to do, sales, marketing, promo. Buy my stuff, buy it. Look at me, pay attention to me and everything I do. I'm insecure.